gonna get to the point where people can tell if I like a book or not by the runtime of the video I make. God help me. Well, I wasn't expecting the book about squash to be my favorite out of the long list so far, but here we go. Shit! To be fair, that's because this long list has made me mad so far, so I was just very glad to get a nice breath of air before I go back down into the fucking cave. And that book we're going to talk about today is called Western Lane by Chetna Maroo, which also happens to have one of the ugliest book covers of all time. I thought, in like a few words, that this book was unpretentious, sweet, uncomplicated, and quite delightful, honestly. This book is about an 11-year-old girl who learns to play squash, and it helps her cope with the death of her mother. And while she does that, she makes friends, and she drinks Coke, and she's just happy. I found this book, as I said, sweet, but still capable of nuance and emotion that a lesser writer would have ignored in telling this story. I really felt the mood in the first 10 or 15 pages. I enjoyed the perspective. I thought the writing was really strong. It set the mood up really well. I was enjoying the kind of tone of it. And yeah, it was a great opening. I thought all of the characters were very different and detailed. I particularly liked her friend Ged, I think his name is. I liked her, I think, older sister Mona, and I like the dad as well. There's a lot of really good characters in this, and character writing too. The sister in particular I thought was a good character. There's a great moment where they're at a fair and they're hanging out with their new friends, and that character is feeling quite sort of down, and she says, well, we only have these new friends because mum is dead. That's the only reason they've decided to go play squash in the first place. And I just thought that was a good bit of character writing. The plot moved very well, and it had weight and consequence to it. There's a section where the main character hits her dad, and it's like a major fucking hit, and it has a sort of subtle knock-on effect to their relationship that I really liked and that didn't draw too much attention to itself. The squash was really well described, I thought, and it's not like I'm interested in the technicals of squash, but I thought it was like, it was very precise in its word choices, and it really put you in the not only the headspace of the character, but also the speed that they're moving at. Where, like, for example, the final scene where they're playing squash, the squash final, I thought that the way they described it was very, it moved with the right kind of speed. I was reading it at the right kind of speed for like a final climactic moment, if that makes sense. Yeah, it felt like really strong, really well-edited writing with those scenes at least. And I like that after the final, we find out her prize for winning is like £20 or something. And it's a funny reveal because it makes you realize how intense the writer had made the final before that. And because it would be intense to someone in that character's sort of situation and mental space. I mean, she's an 11-year-old, fuck. I really loved the ending as well. And that final line, I thought that was very profound, and I read those last couple of pages a few times just to let it sink in. Yeah. The book is about how we can react to change, and the squash court is a metaphor for, I don't know, grief or something, and concentrating on something else to try and get over the mum's death. And her dad is encouraging her to do that because her dad is doing that himself in his own way every single day. And I loved, honestly, how little the mother was mentioned at all. Because you get it, you get the point. And the mum is not actually brought up that much. It's not every page with her. The character is getting on with her life, and she's playing squash and she's enjoying it, and then it kind of comes back a little bit near the end, and it appears in chunks throughout the middle, but it's not, like, you have that in the back of your head, and a lesser writer would have insisted on it a lot and would have made it really obvious. But I feel like she didn't. I feel like this author did a good job with that. The discussions of grief are very moving and nuanced for how short and unpretentious the book is. I realized once I finished the book, because I read it in like an hour-long chunk, that I basically didn't take any notes. But I don't have much to say about it. There may be more nuance to the book, and it may ring out more like an Alice Munro story, but I wasn't necessarily looking for that. I got the point, and I don't necessarily want to revisit it or reread it too many times, even though I did like it. I didn't feel like it was something that was particularly profound or life-changing to me. And yeah, this book may have read differently to me if it wasn't on the Booker long list, but I wouldn't have fucking read it if it wasn't on the Booker long list, so I don't know. I've seen some people that are bored with it or hate it. I don't know how you can hate this book. It does so little. Like, there's not a lot to hate about this book, really. It's definitely formulaic, I'll give you that, for sure, but I don't feel like it needed to divert from any kind of formula, really. I would say that it occasionally feels like it's underwritten, but I would prefer a book that's underwritten over something that's overwritten, where the author is sweating bullets trying to make you feel the emotion, like fucking Sebastian Barry. I've enjoyed thinking about this book in the last 3 or 4 days. It has a nice spot in my mind, I like it. A lot of the other haters were saying that they're shocked this book was longlisted at all, and then it beat out other nominees. First of all, for the long list, that's not how that works. It's literally like, every judge picks their top 3 and then they make a list out of it. So I'd be unsurprised if fucking Lady Danbury or Robert Webb put this at their number 3 spot and then it just got in. Like that, I don't think that it getting in is a judge on the Booker necessarily. The long list is fucked. If I were any of you, I'd be more mad that Old God's Time made it on, because that's shit Booker bait and it still managed to get on the list. But as for Western Lane, I thought it was very nice. I can totally understand how someone would like this book. And I'm just gonna give it a very nice 6 out of 10. Bada boom! Spoilers, I'm gonna predict it for the shortlist, actually, just to be edgy. But if it's on the shortlist, I would have no issue with that. I think it's a very sweet book, and I'd like to see more people read it. So there you go. Thanks, guys! See you guys later for the How to Build a Boat review. Bye!